guys, it's your girl Courtney Lauren. Welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be making for you guys my Slap Your Mama beef stew recipe. So go ahead and hit that like button, subscribe, turn on your notifications so you can see what I post. I was a little hesitant to post this because I understand that I recorded the video the wrong way, so you're going to see those black spaces on the sides. But honestly, I want you guys to have this recipe. You're going to love it. So if you guys can get past that wrong way, then so can I hope you guys enjoy this video, and you guys can always put comments down at the bottom of other recipes you would like to see from me. Let's get into this recipe. Alright y'all, let's get into this beef stew recipe. So here I have some red wine, some tomato paste, better than beef bouillon, Worcestershire, beef broth, garlic powder, dry thyme, although I usually use fresh, I couldn't find it, onion powder, bay leaves, a half of a medium onion chopped, 4 large garlic cloves crushed, salt, pepper. In my bowl, I have 2 large carrots that I peeled and sliced, along with 6 medium yellow potatoes, also peeled and sliced. Everything has been washed. In my bowl, I have about 3 pounds of stew beef. You can find that at your supermarket. Go ahead and coat your beef with the seasonings. I would say about a tablespoon each of the seasonings. Give it a nice toss to make sure everything is nice and incorporated. After that, we're going to go ahead and get 2 tablespoons of flour. So go ahead and get 2 tablespoons of flour, sprinkle that on the beef. This is going to help lock in the flavor. It's also going to help thicken your stew later. When the bits get to the bottom of your pot, you'll see that later, but yeah, flour is the key here. So go ahead and give the flour a toss. Make sure all your beef is nice and incorporated with the flour and the seasonings. Here I have my 6-quart Dutch oven pot. I love this pot. I use it for all my stews and lots of soups and everything. This has already been heating. My stove is on about a 5 right now. And now we're going to go ahead and put about 2 tablespoons of olive oil. You can also use vegetable oil, canola oil, whatever oil you like. I like to use olive oil, so that's what I'm going to use. This part is very important. We're going to cook this beef in batches so that you don't overcrowd the pot. We're just going to cook it enough to where the sides all over the beef are brown. The middle is still going to be raw, but the sides around the beef are going to be brown. So I would say cook the beef on all sides about 3 to 4 minutes each. Get you another bowl on the side. Once this beef in the pot has all been browned, you're going to scoop it out, put it in a bowl, then start your next batch. We're going to go through all of this until all of the beef is done. And then, yeah. See, I have my pot here, my beef cooking. Got my other beef on the side that's already been browned on all the sides. So then after that, you're going to see that we have our brown bits at the bottom of the pot. Do not wash this away. We're going to use this. This is going to help thicken your stew and season it. Go ahead and give in your onions a toss. This is also the part where we're going to add in our garlic. I am using 4 large garlic cloves that I crushed myself. If you have the already minced garlic, I would use 1 heaping tablespoon of that. Go ahead and give that a toss. Mix this all around. On this part, I also like to kind of scratch and scrape at the bottom bits on the bottom, see if some of them will start to come up. If they do not come up, it is fine. We're going to deglaze the pan later, so those are going to come up. I just like to scratch and scrape at it, scraping the sides and everything. Now that the onions have been browning about 5 minutes, we're going to go ahead and deglaze the pan with red wine. This is 1 cup of red wine. You can use any red wine that you like. Normally it's supposed to be like a drier wine, so like Cab Sav or something like that. Go ahead and give this a toss. Also scraping those bits at the bottom. I like to scrape the sides and everything. You'll notice that it's starting to come up now that the pan is deglazing. We're going to go ahead and add in 1 tablespoon of tomato paste. We're going to add 2 tablespoons of Worcestershire sauce, 2 bay leaves, and we're also going to add about a teaspoon of dry thyme. Like I said, normally I use fresh thyme. At the store today, I couldn't find it, so we're just going to use what we got. Dry thyme works just as good too. So go ahead and give that a stir. You'll probably start to notice that the bits that were at the bottom of your pot are starting to come up now. As you can see, the broth also looks a little bit thicker. That was because of the bits at the bottom. Go ahead and add 4 cups of your beef broth. I also like to add a pinch of salt on this part. I didn't record that, but I also did add a pinch of salt. Taste your broth for flavor. Mine tasted like it needed more salt, so I just added it. I'm also going to add in a teaspoon of Better Than Beef bouillon. I already dropped that in, so I'm going to go ahead and give that a swirl, toss that around. This part, we're going to add our beef back into our broth. So any drippings that were also at the bottom of your bowl that the beef was sitting in, go ahead and add that too. Any flavor that you got, you want to add it back into your stew. Go ahead and give the beef a toss. Then on this next part, I like to add in the carrots. I usually put the carrots in before the potatoes because the carrots are hard and they take longer to cook. So I'm going to toss these in, give that a stir so that they're in the broth as well and incorporate it with the beef. We're going to cover this and we're going to let this cook for about 30 to 40 minutes without the potatoes in it. Right now my stove is on a 4. We want this to simmer, and we don't want this to boil. So if your stove is still on like a 6, I would bring that down. Alright, so it's been about 40 minutes. I took the lid off. I gave it a stir as well. We're going to go ahead and add the potatoes in on this part. Be careful when you're adding them in. The broth is very hot and they will splash a little. Go ahead and give the potatoes a turn. And we are going to cook this with the potatoes in the broth for another hour. Make sure that stove is still low. We don't want it to boil too much because you don't want to lose a lot of the broth. We just want this to simmer so that the meat becomes tender. So after you give that a toss, go ahead, put your lid back on, and then we're going to cook this for another hour. So it's been about 30 minutes. We are cooking this for an hour. I just like to stir it about halfway through just to check and make sure that I'm not losing too much of my broth. This looks really good to me. So after I give it a nice stir, I'm going to go ahead and put the lid back on it. We're going to go ahead and cook this for the last 30 minutes. So it's been 30 minutes. As you can see, the broth is not as thick as I want. So on this part, I always do a little trick. If you get 1 tablespoon of flour, 2 tablespoons of butter, soft butter that you can stir around very easily, you mix that together and you make a paste. This is going to help thicken that broth up so that it's not so soupy. So go ahead and toss that in and give that a nice stir. You're going to want to make sure this boils all the way out. You don't want any little bits of flour or any kind of flour taste in there. So I like to cook this out for another 5, maybe 10 minutes, just so I make sure that it's all the way cooked out, and you'll notice that the broth starts to really thicken up. You're also going to want to take out your bay leaves on this part as well. Like I said, normally I cook with fresh thyme, so I would be taking out my thyme stems as well, but since we use dry thyme, just go ahead and take out those bay leaves, because you don't want to eat those. So let's go ahead and take those out. And then at the very end, you're going to add in a 1/2 cup of frozen peas. These need literally 2 minutes to cook, so I throw them in literally right before I make myself a plate. Go ahead and toss those around. Make sure it's all nice and incorporated. You can see the broth is nice and thick and silky looking now. Smells amazing, looks amazing, and I like to make myself some rice on the side. And there you have it. I like to call this the Slap Your Mama beef stew, because baby, you gonna want to slap your mama. I hope y'all enjoyed.